kids, here we are again in the middle of nowhere. And I've been thinking, you know, as we were riding around figuring out where we were going to start tonight, what the fuck we're going to talk about tonight. And I got to thinking, we're always complaining about what we do for a living. So I thought, well, fuck it, let's talk about what we would do if we could do it. And I'm going to start. And basically what I would do instead of working in a store, if I had the opportunity, is basically what I'm kind of doing with this channel. And it's just kind of entertaining people. I mean, I've always, you know, if it wasn't already obvious by the fact that this channel exists, that I like to be the center of attention. And even in the line of work I'm in now, I sort of do that to some extent.
Yeah.
You know, but on a much more broad scale, I kind of do that through this channel, doing the different things that we do. But, you know, I've always, you know, enjoyed, you know, getting people's attention, making them laugh, or even just getting awkward looks from people can be rewarding sometimes, too. And as a lot of people will tell you, I am pretty much a master of saying things totally random that just make people go, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, that's basically what I would do. I mean, YouTube is a great outlet for people who just want to entertain. And that's kind of my thing. And, you know, I made this channel initially, you know, way back when YouTube was still fairly new, because, you know, we had a few videos, you know, sitting around with nobody to show them to.
Yeah.
I mean, we made stuff before YouTube existed, and then I discovered it, and I said, well, I'm going to throw one or two of these videos up and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I threw up, you know, Pure Utter Destruction and Stupid Idea were the first two I put up.
Yep.
And, you know, those have a few views. They don't have a lot, you know, a couple hundred.
Yeah.
You know. That's always kind of been my thing. Just random stuff to entertain people. And I, you know, if I could, you know, make it in like the real media, like TV or something like that, that would be living my dream, you know?
Yeah. You would definitely be a great stand-up comedian.
And I've had people tell me that before, that I could do stand-up or even anything like that. And yeah, I could. I mean, I got plenty of material, believe me. A lot of it I don't want to say on YouTube, because a lot of it's about people I know and work with, but, you know, let me just say this much. If my current job ever blows up in my face and I leave there, I'm going to air so much dirty laundry on this channel, trust me.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's another story for another time. But, another kind of a passion of mine is I always wanted to just be like a TV host, like host different things, you know, like whether it be like a game show or like one of those funny video shows like Tosh.0 or something like that. I would love to do that sort of thing, or even just do voiceover work. Like I do goofy voices and stuff all the time. Like you watch my, you know, Nate Fails That videos, I make up all those character voices and stuff, and there's a lot more that I do than that. I just haven't found a way to fit them all in yet. But someday I will. If I can ever, you know, make it on YouTube, like, you know, if you're watching this years from now and this is actually taking off, you know, this is me trying to set this ball into motion. But as of right now, you know, we don't really have a lot of resources. But if we can ever, you know, start to gain a bit of a following and maybe, you know, get some help from people who actually know what the fuck we're doing, I'd like to do a lot more.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of always been my dream, is just to be an entertainer.
You would definitely make a great one, Nate. I mean, some of the shit you come up with right there on the fucking spot.
And, you know, I've plugged it before, but I do that New Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog every Sunday night, and that's what that is. That is just improv comedy. You know, we start with a 3-sentence synopsis of what the story needs to be about, and we just sit there for like 2 hours and just make up a story, you know, on the spot. And, speaking of plugging, I'm just going to say this now. We actually are having a casting call right now. We're trying to find a couple more cast members to try and expand our lineup a little bit, just to kind of take the load off of us. Because there's only 4 of us right now, and it's starting to show that there's only 4 of us. So we'd like to get a couple more people to help, you know, so we have a couple more people to bounce off of and get some fresh new ideas in there. So if you're into that sort of thing and you're interested in that, I'll put the link right about there. So yeah, if you're interested in that, But yeah, that's always just kind of my thing, you know, like, a lot of the stuff I say in these videos is all stuff that really happened to me, and, you know, I think a lot of it makes for good stories, you know, and believe me, if I was doing this as a stand-up routine, I'd really go all out with this shit. But yeah, that's kind of what I've always wanted to do. So yeah. Right now we're approaching Waterfall Road.
Yep.
So that's me.
Well,
what about you?
Me, on one hand, one thing I've always wanted to do, and this stands to this day, that if ever given the chance that I could ever own my own garage, I've always wanted to do this. I've always wanted to sit here and, or you know, be my own boss, you know, or be the boss, you know, hand out the work and say, okay, this car needs a tune-up. Do it. This car needs an oil change, tire rotation, check the brakes. Do it. You know, I've always wanted to manage my own garage and own my own garage. I'm an automotive mechanic myself, but, you know, and if need be, I would pitch in and, you know, help out, get stuff done. But, you know, that is one of my main dreams that I've always wanted to do, is own my own garage and, you know, hope and pray that I would become a successful businessman. I mean, I don't have the credentials to do it. I mean, I could go back to school to become, you know, I get my associate's degree or whatever degree you need to become a business owner. I could do that, but, you know,
I think there's ways to get that without actually going back to school for that, because I don't want to say his name, but you know who I'm talking about. My neighbor, he owns a body shop, and he never even finished 9th grade.
Yeah.
He dropped out of school when he was like 13, 14, something like that, maybe 15. But he dropped out of school, and he runs a body shop, and it's one of the most successful body shops around.
Yeah. In that particular area.
Yeah. So if he can do that, you know, and this doesn't just go for you, this is, you know, for anybody out there. If there's something you want to do bad enough, go for it.
Yeah.
Because if that guy can be a high school dropout and be a successful, you know, business owner and have a body shop, and I might add, he's really good at it too.
Yeah.
You know, some of the guys that works for him, not so much, but he is really good. And not only does he do that, you know, he's done racing on the side pretty much his whole life, and does a lot of work with that. And you know, I don't want to take away from your story too much, but one of his biggest projects he ever did was he bought this old bread truck and converted it into an RV that he could use not only to take out and go camping, but he could also use it to pull his race car trailer.
Yeah.
He eventually sold that bread truck because, you know, he was too damn lazy to ever get tags or anything thrown on it. But, you know, that blew my mind when before he painted the outside, it still said fucking Wonder Bread on the outside. He did the inside of it first, and I opened it up, and I'm like, oh my God, because that thing was beautiful inside.
Yeah. I never seen it personally, but
it had a kitchen table in it, like fucking microwave, fridge. Like, you could have lived in that thing. It was gorgeous. And then he painted the outside like bright red and blue with a checkered flag stripe down the side.
I mean, I remember seeing it, the outside of it, but I never was inside.
I rode in that thing from, we were coming back from Hill Valley Speedway late one night, and you don't want to be in the back of anything that this guy drives.
No.
And mind you, this thing just had ordinary bench seats in the back with no seat belts, and if there was something to hold on to, I would have been holding on, because that ride that night, even though it was only a couple of miles, scared the shit out of me. But that, and you know, I'll talk about him more later. But anyway, getting back to our original subject matter. Yeah. Did you have anything more to go with that? I kind of got sidetracked there.
And another thing that I always wanted to, well, on top of, you know, creating my own garage, and you know, I always wanted to open up a side business on top of that as a lawnmower shop.
I always kind of wanted to do that too, as like a side project.
I mean, you know, I've worked on engines my entire life. The first engine I ever tore apart and put back together, I was 6 years old. Now it ran like shit because I didn't get some of the parts back in the right, or back to where they were supposed to be. It knocked and shit. I didn't get the crank, or the crank cap back on in the right spot, or I had it backwards. I mean, yeah, I was 6 years old. I didn't fucking know.
Well, you gotta start somewhere.
I tore it all apart and put it back together. Took me a day to do it. Didn't have no help from my father or anything. My dad's been a mechanic for 30 plus years, going on 40 years. He'll be 60 in 2 years. And, you know, I always wanted to do that on the side along with my garage.
Kind of makes sense, you know, you got your large engines and then your small engines.
I mean, small engines are simple, easy to work on.
Yeah.
And easy to maintain and, you know, to troubleshoot. But, you know, you got a car engine that, or a cars nowadays, they have fucking anywhere up to 20 computers in them just to control everything in the vehicle. Hell, there's cars nowadays that have a computer to control the seats. The seats.
Yeah. And we complained about this before, that it's getting ridiculous.
I mean, I don't claim to be the world's best mechanic. I'm a damn good mechanic. But, you know, when they start throwing shit at you like that, sometimes I wish I never became an automotive mechanic, but there are other days that it's a learning experience. Every day that I'm in the garage that I work in, it's a learning experience because I learn something new every day.
Yeah.
You know, I find out new tricks to do different things every day. You know, I did a water pump today on a 98 Dodge Ram 1500. Normal water pump replacement on one of them, and it's a V8. Normal water pump replacement on one of them takes roughly about an hour. You know, get everything out of the road, you know, tear everything down, clean everything up, and then reassemble. It took me 45 minutes. I had it tore apart and ready to go back together. I pulled it in the shop at 4:30. I had it done roughly at about 15 after 5. All back together, not started up, but it took roughly, hey look, Bratton Road.
Yeah.
It took roughly 45 minutes to do that water pump. The guy was astounded. He looks at me and he says, "God damn it, boy." He said, "You should work in a fucking or in a fucking speed shop." This guy I never met before in my fucking life that lives in Tyrone
Where in the absolute ass are we?
I have no fucking
never
clue.
seen this bridge before in my life.
Well, there's a placard right there.
Got a light handy?
Sure. A Wi-Fi signal.
Another random place where we have random Wi-Fi randomly. Okay, we are at... I can't fucking read what that says. Because it's all covered in dirt and shit. If anybody can read what this bridge says, that is where we are right now.
1916 is whenever that placard was
whenever that was put there or made, that, yeah.
I can make out Huntington County, Fulton County.
Hold on, I'm just gonna get out and fucking see where the hell we are. It is Joint County Bridge. That is where we're at. We're at the Joint County Bridge because we're on the Huntington County line. That's where we're at.
Yep. Built in 1916.
Built in 1916. That's where the fuck we are. We're at the Joint County Bridge. Whatever the fuck that is. That's this. That is what that is.
You're officially in the middle of bumfucked Egypt.
I think so. Alright, we're back after that little interruption. We're now continuing on Dublin Mills Road.
Now back to what I was saying before. Guy I never met in my entire life breaks down today. His water pump went out of his truck. Breaks down right directly across the highway from where I work. And after I was done, he shook my hand and he said, "Boy, you know your shit." He said, looks at my dad. He said, "You've created a fine automotive mechanic." And he looks at, sorry I had to mention his name, but you won't know who he is. He's a sales manager. Looks at him, says, "That young man knows his shit. You should be giving him a fucking raise." That made me fucking feel good. That really did.
Yeah?
That a total stranger that I'd never met before in my entire life. And he said, "If I ever need any more service, I'll be back."
There you go.
So that made me feel good that I actually impressed somebody other than my boss.
Yeah. And, you know, I find that's true. Doesn't matter what you do. If you impress the people that you're, you know, providing your service to, you know, you keep them coming back. That's job security right there.
Right.
Yeah, that is your job security right there. Yeah. So, yeah.
I mean, that really fucking made me feel good.
Yeah.
But you know, I've always had two dreams. Owning my own garage and having a little side business was the one. Number two was also in the automotive field, becoming a technician. Now there's a difference between an automotive mechanic and an automotive technician. A mechanic, you can do anything. You specialize in anything. An automotive technician, you specialize in one thing and one thing only, and you get paid on based what you know and how good you perform your job.
Right.
Now, in 2008 standards, for the 3 years I was in vocational school, I was rated, out of all the vocational schools in the state of Pennsylvania, I was rated top number one automotive technician in the state of Pennsylvania. Number one.
And that right there is why this guy is the one that works on all of my shit.
Top number one automotive technician throughout the entire state of Pennsylvania. No, I don't fucking know what I'm doing. But you can't tell a lot of people that. But
it is what it is. Okay? And, you know, I find this true with myself, too. I mean, you can be great at something and know it, but you gotta be able to prove it. And some people need a lot of proof before they get it.
You know, Nate, you're great with computers.
Yeah.
I work on his fucking cars, and, you know, he buys the parts. I work on his cars for nothing. Because he fixed, I take him to fix, take my computers for him to fix. We exchange fucking shit.
Yeah, we do each other's work. But, yeah. And that was the other thing I was going to mention.
Look at that house.
Yeah, that's a nice-ass house.
Log cabin? Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that I was going to say that I've always wanted to do, besides being, you know, an entertainer, and I've kind of gotten away from it somewhat, but someday I'd like to get back into it. But this, and I mentioned this a little bit before, but I've always had a fascination with tearing apart computers and putting them back together. And I've always wanted to be like a, you know, like a PC service technician.
Mm-hmm.
I never got the proper certification to do it. I could and I should and I probably eventually will, but for right now, you know, I'm doing other things. But like he said, he tore an engine down at the age of 6. Me, I started screwing with computers at the age of 6.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't really start getting into them and tearing them apart and fixing them until I was about 13. But, you know, that's something I've always done, and to this day, it's like nothing for me to troubleshoot and get one working that's doing something it's not supposed to be doing. And I've got a whole house full of old computers. I have like 3 hooked up in one room and 2 in another, and then 1 upstairs.
Yeah.
And,
side note, we were at a computer shop, a local computer shop that, you know, she does work. Her and her husband do, you know, they're actual, you know.
They're legit in the business.
And she looks at him and says, "You know your shit. I never knew you could do that."
Oh, yeah.
And you're not certified? God damn it, you should be, because I want you working for me whenever you do.
And maybe someday I will.
Yep.
But getting back to what I was saying, I have, you know, 6 different systems in my house at current.
Mm-hmm.
And I know every single thing about each and every one of them. Whenever something backs up, I pretty much instantly know what to do to fix it, because a lot of them don't get used that often because they're just my tinkering systems. And they sit out there in the room where I keep them. I've showed this room before.
Yeah.
But we don't really run the AC or the heat in that room much, so throughout the, you know, day and night and through the year, you know, the climate changes and stuff inside of them expands and contracts, and sometimes stuff gets loose and I have to monkey with it to get it working again. But I'm so used to it by now, it's just second nature to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the other thing I've always wanted to do. I always wanted to go into that business, you know, legit. But as I was getting at, you know, stuff changes so much and so fast these days, it's hard to keep up with.
Oh, shit. In my lifetime, my working career, ever since I was 17, is whenever I started working, you know, on payroll. I mean, you know, ever since I was like 10 or 12 years old, I was doing work on the side and shit like that. But, you know, ever since I've been on payroll, you know, actually paying taxes and shit, I've bounced from job to job to job to job. I mean, I've always stayed in the automotive field no matter what. I've always done shit in the automotive field my entire life. But one job I did, I worked at a gas station. Big look. That was 2 weeks.
Yeah, I remember that.
A month. I worked there a month.
I remember that.
That was just for a little more pocket change. Big, hairy dick deal. That didn't pan out. Because obviously I wasn't picking it up. Well, excuse the fuck out of me, I have a goddamn learning disability. Suck my dick.
Words to live by right there.
Yep. So, that was on top of, you know, my middle of my junior year in high school, and towards my senior year, I was a part-time mechanic at where I work now. I work 3 days a week, sometimes Saturdays, 3 hours a day. At the job I work at now. That was just, you know, so I had a little bit of jingle in my pocket, and, you know, put gas in the car and, you know, go drive. You know, that's back whenever gas was below $2 a gallon.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can remember that. Holy shit. But,
speaking of stuff from the pre-YouTube days.
Yeah. But, my other job the one job that I did, I worked in a hardwood floor manufacturing plant. Worked there for altogether about 1.5 years. Now, I enjoyed it. It was a different experience. You know, I got to, you know, work with multi-million-dollar equipment, set up multi-million-dollar equipment. You know, my boss was a multi-millionaire. To look at him, you would never fucking know. He drove a old beat up F-250. It was like a 2000 with over 300,000 miles. That was his fucking daily driver. He drove that everywhere he went. He would wear tan dicky pants and a t-shirt. That was it. That's all he wore. Didn't put on, you know, the, oh, I'm a I'm a millionaire suit. You know, he worked. He would work his fucking fingers to the bone. Now, that was a complete different experience. That it was alright. Would I do it again if I had to? Yes, but not as a choice. But another sense, you know, that was an okay job. It was easy money.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second because we're coming up on when this camera likes to cut off. So I'm going to put a really bad edit right here so that way the camera keeps rolling. So
okay.
Hang tight, everybody. All right, awkward edit over. Resume.
We're back. You know, like I was saying, would I do it again? Yeah, if I had to. But, you know, it was easy money. You know, all I had to do was show up and, you know, I had surface wood, cut where, you know, surface the lumber, stack it, put it on another skid, and the other guy would run it through the rip saw, rip it. Another guy would stack the stuff that was ripped. Well, rip means to, you know, cut it straight.
Long ways.
Long ways. You know, run it through the rip saw, done. Okay, move on to the next stage, which would be the molder. The molder that would put the end matcher. I'm sorry, the molder. The molder would, you know, put, you know, say you wanted it tongue and grooved, and, you know, put the edges on the bottom of the flooring. Did all that. The molder could, you know, make a 2x4 into a perfect circle if you wanted to.
Yeah.
After come off the molder, after the flooring would come off the molder, it was already tongue and grooved. My other job was to run the end matcher. And what the end matcher did is it would put a tongue and groove at the end of each board. At the very end where you would join them together, not the ends where the flooring would come together to be scattered out on the floor, but where they would
on the short end of it.
On the short end. That job was easy. The only part of it that was not easy was lifting the heavy pieces of wood. Now, we mainly worked with red oak and white oak. That shit is heavy, especially if you get 14 or 12, 14 or 16 footers. You know what I mean by that is 12, 14, and 16 feet long. Not wide, long. Hell, the one time we did 18 footers, and it took two guys to lift that fucking flooring, or to lift the stuff that needed to be surfaced. He never did that again. Now, that job was alright. I enjoyed it at times, and other times it was a bit of a fucking headache. Literally headache. All you hear is "mee" all fucking day long. That's all you heard all fucking day long. And the sounds of equipment running and all that happy horse shit. Now, I worked in the same place that Nate did for 5 months as a temporary associate in lawn and garden. That place wasn't for me.
And that place has its own set of things that'll drive you crazy after a while. Like, you know, scanners beeping all day, kids screaming, you know, people complaining, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, little stuff that you don't think would eat at you after a while does.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have that, you're surrounded by, you know, electronic equipment that's running all day. And you don't think of that as being loud. But you listen to those cooling fans and all that stuff running for a while. Plus you got that motor that drives the conveyor belt. Yep. After a while that gets to you. And then I was talking about these earlier. Those goddamn self-checkouts that talk to you.
Yes.
I swear to God, some nights that lady is narrating to me everything that I'm doing. And it makes me want to punch a kitten. But enough about that.
Yeah. And another thing I did, I worked in a factory called Warnaco. And what Warnaco was, it was basically a clothing distribution plant. You know, you'd get the name brand clothing like Calvin Klein, all that happy horse shit. What we would do is we'd box it up, put it on skids to be sent out to different places and throughout the United States. That was what Warnaco did.
Yeah,
I worked there for 2 fucking days and they laid me off.
Yeah, and that business no longer exists.
No.
It's closed up now, so that's why we're not afraid to talk about it. But, yeah.
Well, just a moment of silence here. Okay. The reason why I said moment of silence was because that was my grandmother's old house. I grew up there, basically. You know, we just passed my grandmother and grandfather's old house. But, out of all the jobs that I've done, I am through and through an automotive mechanic. Nothing more, nothing less. That's the only thing that I can ever foresee myself doing. Now, if come down to it, you know, if I couldn't do that anymore, something else that I've often thought of was law enforcement. You know, if I couldn't, you know, bend wrenches or turn wrenches all fucking day long for 10 hours a day. You know, I've often thought about going to the police academy. That's not a dream, that's just a thought.
Well, since, you know, you're talking about your, you know, plan B, I think I mentioned a couple of things that through the years I thought I wanted to do, but then kind of let it go. And I don't want to ramble too long here, because one, we're almost back to home base, and two, this one's getting kind of long, but
let me finish up. I would not want to go corrections, because I'm sorry, I deal with enough fucking asshole-ish people.
Yeah,
if I were a correction officer, I'd have to fucking shoot every single one of them. Yeah. But, you know, law enforcement, I mean, I respect police officers to a point. You know, some of them can be fucking dickheads. Yeah,
it goes back to the old cliche of good cop, bad cop.
You know, good cop, no, or bad cop, no donut type fucking deal. You know, there are good cops and there are bad cops. There are bad cops out. The bad cops out there are the ones that don't deserve the fucking job, or don't deserve the fucking job title.
And those are the ones that you always see popping up on the news or on some viral video or something.
Yeah.
You know.
You know, I've often thought, you know, whenever I was back in high school, I was always the person that always fucking got bullied and kicked around and, you know, made fun of and shit. You know, what better way to get back to those fucking assholes that did that shit to me than to throw them in jail? Because they were speeding, they were drinking while driving, or driving under the influence.
Just anything like that.
Just anything. You know, just to get the fuck back at them and say, listen here, motherfucker, I am the fucking law. Now what are you gonna do? I'll end that there, so Nate can continue on what he was gonna say.
Right. Years ago, I kind of, for a while, thought maybe I would want to be like a teacher. And in some ways, you know, I kind of do like to, you know, inform people and educate, but my big problem now that I'm older and I realize this is I can't stand kids. So that wouldn't work out so well.
Doesn't mean you have to be a child, or
that's right, you know,
the student teacher. You know, you can be an adult teacher.
Right. I kind of got away from that whole thing because when I explain things, I tend to get very long-winded, and I often say a lot of stuff that confuses people.
You off into a tangent a few times?
Once or twice, you know. And that was something I thought I wanted to do at one point, but like I said, I kind of got away from that idea.
I had that hunch whenever I was in auto mechanics. You know, I thought, maybe I could do this shit. You know, I could be an automotive instructor.
The thing with any sort of being an educator in any field is you got to have a hell of a lot of patience.
Yeah.
And I don't.
I don't either.
No. And, yeah, so that was something I thought I wanted to do at one point, but looking back, nah, not so much.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I could see myself teaching adults, you know, that are grown the fuck up and don't fucking bitch and bawl. Oh, I gotta do that. Oh.
Well, in all fairness, there's plenty of adults that still do that.
Oh, yeah, no shit, but, you know,
I deal with a lot of them.
So do I.
But anyway, I want to end this one on a very ironic note. Why is it an ironic note? My grandmother will attest to this. This was when I was very, very, very little. And back before a lot of things in my life turned out very differently. At one point, I thought I wanted to be a preacher.
Whoa. Holy shit.
That's why I said it was very ironic.
Wow. That's something I never knew about my best friend, and I've known you for 14 fucking years.
Right.
God damn! How ironic is that?
Yeah.
I mean, I know you love to preach to people, but not about a certain thing.
Right. And I want to make a point that, you know,
Oh dear.
Yeah, another deer. That my grandmother, you know, brought me up going to a Methodist church, and when I was, you know, younger, you know, I enjoyed it. You know, I liked going, and then as I got older, you know, I kind of got bored with it, and I started questioning things more.
Yeah.
And a lot of stuff didn't make sense, and, you know, to make a very, very long story short, there ain't no way in hell.
No.
But at one point in my life, that was a little aspiration I had, but that, just like the teaching thing, that one disappeared pretty quick.
That ended in a big old flop.
Yeah. So I think all in all, I'm going to stick to what I do best. Entertainment.
Yep. Yeah, you would not make a good preacher.
Not anymore.
Fuck you, go to hell!
Right.
Oh, shit.
Plus, on top of all that, there'd be a lot of conflict of interest.
Yeah?
On that note, I think we're done with this one because we're just about back to home base, so we'll see you next time.
See ya.